News Nation's Kelly Myers live for us at the White House. And Kelly, Democrats' big question right now is what went wrong? And a lot of people are pointing the finger directly at President Biden.
Yeah, Nichole, and I've been talking with my Democratic sources, and it's a range of issues in this blame game that they're playing right now, either from the Harris campaign to President Biden to the Democratic Party overall. And President Biden, we saw come out here today to try to keep the focus on what's next at hand. He brought out members of his administration. We were just in the Rose Garden, and the seats were filled with those that have served in his administration. We saw them immediately stand up, give a standing ovation for quite a while before he started giving remarks. And he did talk about speaking to President-elect Trump, inviting him to the White House, talking about assuring that he has all that he needs from his administration to assure that peaceful transfer of power. He spoke of his vice president, who lost that bid for the White House, and said that she gave it her all and that she had put her whole heart into this effort. He also spoke about that struggle for the soul of America that we heard him in his campaign and his administration talk about, and saying that the country, the campaigns are contests of competing visions, and the country chooses one or the other. We have accepted the choice that the country has made. I want to play a bit more about him talking about the results and trying to really bring unity, if he can, at this time. Take a listen.
Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. We all get knocked down. But the measure of our character, as my dad would say, is how quickly we get back up. Remember, a defeat does not mean we are defeated. We lost this battle.
President Biden not taking questions from any of the press that were inside the Rose Garden as we were trying to see if he would answer questions about this transition, about what he said to former President Trump, or about any of those remaining questions about what went wrong within this campaign or the Democratic Party. He said he's focused on the next 74 days, he says, to finish our term. He said, quote, "Let's make it count." Nichole.
All right, so Kelly, let's talk about that, because Democrats really are still looking inward at this point now, 2 days later, trying to figure out what went wrong for the Harris campaign, particularly since the race was nowhere near as close as it had been called essentially from the beginning. What more are you hearing?
Yeah. It's a few different things, and I talked with several Democratic sources from on the Hill to those that are in Biden world to donors and things like that. Overall, they came back to this message of we're just not connecting with Democrats. We need to figure out what we're doing wrong, go back to the drawing board, because they said they, quote, faced a shellacking in this race. But there is also some other points that, you know, it was an incumbent president, incumbent vice president. They faced along with it the challenges that came with that. The economy and immigration were the two biggest factors for voters, maybe not so much the threat to democracy and abortion, which they relied on. They also talked a lot about the former president and the threat he would bring, they said, to a second term, and that really didn't resonate as much as they thought. And there was also another point, recycling campaign officials, and we heard about that specifically in Pennsylvania, bringing Beltway DC officials to those areas to join the campaign, and they may not really know the area, or there's these establishment names that really just aren't as in tune with what voters really are thinking. Nichole.
All right, Kelly Meyer live for us there in D.C. Kelly, thank you. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.